From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, and brought to you by BetOnline, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, Dave Rubin. With Gina Grad on news, Bald Brian on sound effects, and Jeff Cesario with the sports, and now he's soaking in it. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get it on. Man, get it on. Woo! Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you, right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
And Bald Brian?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I just flew in from Nashville, Tennessee, up early this morning.
Did they put you in stowage, or where'd you sit this time?
I had an interesting thought as I was flying on my almost 4-hour flight back from Nashville in first class. Oh. And the thought was, I brought my box. I brought my box.
Your skybox.
Yes, it's
your first class meal.
Yes.
You know what? It's actually much smaller than I even thought it was.
No, I know.
Sure you don't hear that very often.
As the boxed meal, let's just put it this way: if you were on an Alaskan Airlines flight and you purchased a hummus box or a protein box for $7, it would outdo this five times over.
Yeah.
This is a miniature little Jackie Kennedy's hat would not fit in this fucking box. Okay.
Yeah, that's like a 4-piece nugget box.
Inside said box, as I said, sack of wheat thins, sack of Skittles.
Jesus.
Skittles is a little insulting for first class, I would argue. A very, like I was saying, this is the cheese. It's smoked Gouda, spreadable. God knows what kind of oils and compounds are in this miniature pack of Gouda cheese. The Milano cookies, the goldfish, very small sack, and then a thing of generic salami, very small pack of generic salami, and 2 Tic Tacs.
That's nice.
So I was handed this box, and I thought to myself, so all there was in first class was 45 minutes in, they literally just handed you a box, and then they left, and then in a miniature Dasani water and a miniature box, and then they just left. They just went and sat down and sat in their jump seat, and then at a certain point, I thought, I don't feel like this person's even a stewardess or flight attendant. I don't even feel like they're doing a job, like they're not interacting. They handed you a box, they sat down, and then I went to go use the bathroom, and someone was in there, and I was kind of caught a little off guard because I didn't see anyone walk past me in the aisle, so I thought it was just open, and turns out the stewardess was in there. Turned out she blew the place up. She blew it up pretty badly. Which is very off-putting because dudes are used to dudes blowing up spaces. This was blown up by a gal.
Girls don't do that.
And
No.
then,
Like Teresa always said, we excrete through our skin like a bullfrog.
and then I sat back down again, and then I realized you handed me a box. That was a little bit of a calorie burner, but then I couldn't get into the bathroom because you were blowing it up, so maybe we're even. And then I
She's
realized
first class.
you're just someone I'm flying with.
Yeah.
You don't work here. We're just we're flight buddies. I sit in a seat. You give me a box. I go use the bathroom. You're in the bathroom. We're even. We're just flying together at this point. We're not even really. There's nothing going on. Although I did pay for the ticket. I mean that was something. But that aside, we're just a couple of folks flying together. That's
Right.
all. Just a couple of lost souls hurling through the air at 625 miles an
Inside a
hour.
tube.
That's it, inside a tube. There is no drinks. There's no offerings. I told you the nighttime flight, at least there was a plastic miniature bottle of wine, but not the morning flight. There's no coffee, no mimosa. No, just a miniature box and a miniature bottle. And if you want to use the bathroom, let me finish blowing her up. So that was it. And then I thankfully we went to bed late, got up really early, and I was just like, I'm just going to close my eyes. I don't care. But I now...
Did you watch Mr. Marjorium's Wonder Emporium or whatever the one movie was?
The one movie was Uncle Buck.
It was Uncle Buck or Zodiac. This one had more movies.
This one had more movies.
Right over there was Uncle Buck
It's
or
inexplicable
Zodiac.
that those are the only two movies.
No,
It is.
It's not a good air movie.
Uncle Buck was...
There's another relaxing, kick your feet up kind of movie.
Uncle Buck was made in 1988, right?
87.
Yeah, 87. I think.
87. It was Macaulay Culkin's movie before Home Alone came out. So that's how old that movie is. Now, but I did have this realization that the people who are supposed to be serving you on this plane are now flying partners. We're no longer, we don't have a relationship like customer and flight attendant. That's out the window. We're sort of partners in safety. That's what we got now. And another interesting thing, which is, and this is the upside, our seat was reclined, 9% or whatever it lets you do, lets you tilt it back upon. Remember they were nuts about getting the seat upright before you landed? Like, get the seat, get it up, all the way up. Oh, no, yours is only partially up. Get it all the way up. Like a lot of discussions. They would tell you over the hopper, we're preparing for landing, get those seats in the upright position, and then they would walk up and down the aisle.
Yeah.
They just went, fuck it. The seats are back. The seats are back.
Like, giving up.
Well, we never needed to do it in the first place. Really, you know what I mean? I'm not talking about reclined. I'm talking about back 5 degrees. It's not holding anybody up.
Right.
There's no reason anything. They just kind of did an agreement. Kind of reminds me of my parents. They're like, we're not going to cook. We're not going to cook meals, but we can't harp about homework and not cook meals. Like we can't be disgusted by bad report cards and not cook meals or buy bicycles.
We got to be consistent.
And not parent.
So it's like, look, I didn't get up to give you a second box of empty carbs, and I'm not going to get up and hassle you that much if the seat's kind of back a little bit. We're just kind of around. But
what about windows? Windows always have to be up.
Didn't they really, in the enforcement of that stuff, like get the shades up, get the seats up, get the trays back, they went through the machinations of the discussion. They were like, we need you to do this, but I'm not getting up and walking around. They weren't getting up and enforcing anything. This box
came up again. I was looking at this yesterday. I didn't have a chance to bring it up, but it was funny because I was theorizing when you were talking about you're in first class, Chris is in Comfort Plus on Delta. There's almost no reason to pay the upgrade for first class if Nissan's footing the bill, by all means. But between the Comfort Plus gets the drinks, gets the food, as far as I know, at least it is on like Alaska, which I fly most often. But like I was looking at I'm looking on Seat Guru, right? The difference between your first class seat and Chris's Delta Comfort Plus seat, 4 inches of pitch, 4 inches of extra pitch. It's 3.8 inches wider than Chris's seat. I'm sure the footroom is maybe 10, 11 inches more, but
maybe.
What are you really, like you're paying a steep upgrade at that point. What are you, not you, but what is one paying for?
A little something called satisfaction. Something you couldn't understand.
Yeah, my row was empty this morning.
His row was empty.
Nice. Oh, you got the whole poor man's first class.
Yeah.
So I was looking up because I was really bothered by this Uncle Buck thing. By the way, it's 89, Uncle Buck and Zodiac. So I went on Twitter, and a lot of people are complaining to Delta. Why is it just Uncle Buck and Zodiac? And GoGo In-Flight responded, "Thank you. I'm sorry, but due to COVID-19, Delta has decided to limit titles available on personal devices to 2 titles only." Which makes
That's not an
zero
explanation.
sense.
I know, because you get to go, hey, why are you wearing a toilet seat around your neck? Due to COVID-19. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Like, you just get, this is everyone's grand excuse to roll it right on back. Like, this is everyone, here's the deal. Everyone wants to do what they want to do when they want to do it. It's just not excusable. But with this COVID-19 business, this is an umbrella that'll cover a lot of different subjects.
Oh, yeah.
So they're taking full advantage of it.
Is that a cost-cutting thing? They're just not paying for extra titles? I don't know how they pick those two, but they just aren't paying for movies on flights? Is that just a way to cut costs?
How does it benefit them?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Also, another highlight from this morning is getting onto the plane. and the stewardess looking at Adam and going, "Oh, welcome back. Short trip, huh?" It was the same crew.
Yes, same
Who cares?
crew.
Not at all.
That's great.
Yeah, so there was that. That was kind of funny. A mini box and a mini bottle of water is what we're down to. So now you're just flying with your buddies who are wearing funny uniforms.
Does
What
that
did you
box
do?
dare say fuel on it?
It does.
Yeah, like flight fuel.
that's
or something.
It
insulting.
says
Flight
flight
fuel.
fuel on it.
Oh,
Flight
great.
fuel. I came in. I said, "Give me those boxes." Of course, Matt DeAndrea wanted nothing to do with his box because he knew what was in that box on the flight out. I wanted nothing to do with that box. So I took them both. I threw them in my backpack. And when I got here, I threw it at intern Ryan and I said, "Tally up the carbs." And in this box, there is 107 grams of carbs. So probably not in the fuel department. I don't know what there is. Something... I'm not sure how much sugar. 49 sugar?
47 grams of sugar.
47 grams of sugar, 107 grams of carbs, and I don't know.
That turns into sugar.
42 grams of fat,
40
22 grams of protein.
22 grams of protein. So I don't know if it's exactly flight fuel. I don't think
That,
Vinny
and
would
that
approve.
sodium, with that summer sausage, that sodium's got to be through the roof.
So there we are, the New World Order. But once again, remember, people want to do what they want to do, and they have found their opening for this. Yes.
On a hopefully happier note, what'd you do with all your extra hotel bucks?
Oh, man. We went out to, would we go to Bourbon?
Yeah.
We ate indoors last night, and not only did we eat indoors, we ate at one of those, how much you guys miss this? The restaurant that's on the 34th floor of the hotel that overlooks the whole city, and you get that whole view table section at the end.
That's
Like,
sweet.
oh, man, were we indoors. We went with the steak tartare.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. We went all in. We went with the truffle mac and cheese. We went ballistic. And because I'm a big wheel, they brought over dessert, and they brought over all kinds of dessert. Yes.
This is in the hotel?
In the
Top
hotel.
hotel?
Yeah.
Ooh la la.
It was awesome, and we all just went sick with the eating, and we wrapped it up around midnight, and then everyone got up at 5:30 in the morning. I was like, oh, we did so much damage. Oh, we should never have done that. So everyone was completely broken. Like, we're never going to eat again.
Good.
And so everyone was stuffed. I brought home a doggy bag, you'll be happy to know. So there's some steak in there. But we punished ourselves with gourmet food up until the end of the night before. And everyone just got up this morning just still stuffed from the night before. Yes?
Yeah, if we would have spent that money on food, the food would have been wasted. I'd rather waste the piece of paper.
Yes. Good call. All right. Shall we transition into some news with, let me hit Liquid IV and then Gina will roll into some news with
You guys could have used some liquid IV this morning.
Yeah.
Could have used.
Did?
I travel with the Liquid IV. It's a
Smart.
little tube pouchy thing. I got up good and hungover and all bloated and everything this morning, and the first thing I did was open one of those bad boys into a water bottle and just shake it up. And I was sucking on that thing all the way up until security. So they have an energy multiplier as well. 100 milligrams of clean caffeine, perfect coffee replacement, all natural alternatives to processed energy drinks. Yeah, don't get into that stuff. I like the lemon. I'm just old school that way. That's what I brought with me this morning. Also, it's a nice taste when you have a little of that cotton mouth from a late night of partying the night before. And they have the premium matcha and green energy blend, delicious tasting energy, same as 1 to 2 cups of coffee with no crash, improves mood, improves focus, non-GMO and vegan, soy, gluten, and dairy free. It's Liquid IV, right, Dawson?
Liquid IV is available nationwide at Costco, or you can get 25% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code ADAM at checkout. That's 25% off anything you order when you use promo code ADAM at liquidiv.com. Start fueling your adventures today at liquidiv.com, promo code ADAM.
All right, let's do a little news, shall we, Gina Grad?
Let's do it.
With Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking viral, all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina Grad. Trouble in the Middle East. Celebrity drunk meltdowns. Need news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
So Jon Stewart is back at it. Remember last year he went and spoke about the 9/11 fund and very passionate about that. And he is back again with a slightly different angle. Of course, the former host of The Daily Show back in D.C. in support of a new bill supporting sick veterans. The bill, called the Presumptive Benefits for Warfighters Exposed to Burn Pits and Other Toxins Act of 2020, they're going to have to think of an acronym, is aimed to helping veterans who were exposed to harmful fumes that came from burn pits. I wasn't familiar with what a burn pit was. So just in case you didn't know, a burn pit refers to an area of a deployed military base devoted to open air combustion of waste. So these guys, he says at the beginning of the speech, though we have a different clip, but saying like, well, we're back again. We're back again, but for, and basically for the same reason that obviously for the 9/11 fund, these guys were around toxic burning material and these veterans are around toxic burning material. So here's a clip from his speech.
We dug burn pits, some of them 10 acres. They burned 24/7. Everything, every hazardous waste was piled into them. And what's the common ingredient? Jet fuel. Jet fuel as the accelerant at ground zero, jet fuel as the accelerant in these burn pits. And so our veterans lived 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, next to toxic smoke, dioxins, everything. And now they're being told, hey man, is that stuff bad for you? I don't know. We don't have the science. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's about money. And we're here today to say we're not going to let this happen in the dark.
This guy's not funny.
Ah,
That was all set up. I didn't get to the punchline.
barely grinned.
It's weird because everyone is wearing masks behind him because of COVID-19, but he's talking about toxic fumes. It almost looks like they're on a theme. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're wearing the mask like symbolically as he's talking about the toxic fumes from the burn pits. Yeah, you think about waging a war or having a presence somewhere. You always think about bullets and fighting and explosions, but what about all the food? What about all the waste? I mean, what about, it's not like they flushed a toilet and it goes into the municipal system. Like all they bring, all of the waste, all the infrastructure, all the meals, all of it. It's got to go somewhere. And I've heard about these before. It seems bizarre that you have the Army Corps of Engineers. So you put these pits somewhere and you burn all your waste and all your trash. It seems insane that there wasn't some thought of, well, what if the wind blows this way and it's just blowing it right back down into the barracks, so to speak. Like, did they have some engineering, some thought, some discussion? I mean, it's got to be something, right? You couldn't just do that.
I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist. I think anyone who listens to this show can understand that. But it would not surprise me if there was some sort of kicking the can down the road. Like, of course, it would be shocking to me if they didn't know that this was toxic, and people shouldn't be around it. But at the same time, it's either got to be done or it's cost effective to get it done. And they're just like, we'll deal with it 10, 20 years. Here we are 19 years later after 9/11. We'll just deal with it 20 years down the road. I can get behind that.
Yeah, well everyone, you don't have to be a toxicologist to figure out that burn, trash and jet fuel and whatever are, but they must design them with some thoughts. They can't just put them right there. Well, anyway, all right.
Well,
one more thing to be depressed about.
Yeah, and I didn't think, a year or two ago I would have said this, but between the 9/11 fund and this, which is in full support of veterans and troops, is Jon Stewart the last and only great uniter of the country? I mean, he's a super progressive dude that cares about firefighters and the military and the people fighting to protect this country. And he's loud about it.
And he's probably a handful of guys that could get Bruce Springsteen to play the benefit concert and Dave Chappelle to play. Like, he could probably get anybody he wanted to do this big, Farm Aid-esque concert thing that we can't have now, but he could raise a lot of dough for this. So good for him. He's a very sincere, he's a very earnest guy. It's actually even funny sometimes that guys like this do comedy for a living when you know their actual personality traits. Right. Very earnest, very concerned, very sort of a little angry sometimes, passionate other times. None of it really feels, how did so much great comedy come out of this vessel? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's not the only hero. I want to make sure we're not, we're giving everyone credit where credit is due. He goes and speaks before Congress. He backs the military and the firefighters and fights, day in and day out to make sure they get what they need. But also celebrities are going on a Facebook freeze for 24 hours. So I want to make sure everybody gets credit for being a hero.
I was in the airport in Nashville a million years ago this morning, and I was just staring up at Kim Kardashian is going to lock out her Facebook for on a 24-hour freeze because she cares. And I was just like, oh God, it's just everywhere all the time. And I guess that's the business. That's her business.
Well, let me give you a little extra info. So Kim Kardashian, Mark Ruffalo, Leonardo DiCaprio, Katy Perry, the list goes on and on of celebrities plan to freeze Facebook and Instagram for 24 hours to protest the spread of hate speech and misinformation on those platforms. The protest, which will go down today as you hear this, is part of the Stop Hate for Profit campaign being organized by the NAACP and the Anti-Defamation League, among other groups. The campaign is calling for the removal of Facebook groups that promote violence and posts that promote misinformation. And she tweeted, because I guess you can still tweet, I don't know. I love that I can connect directly with you through Instagram and Facebook, but I can't sit by and stay silent while these platforms continue to allow the spread of hate, propaganda, and misinformation created by groups to sow division and split America apart only to take steps after people are killed. So it's going to be a quiet day.
I saw hers followed by DiCaprio's about 7:15 this morning at the on CNN airport, whatever. I was trying to charge my phone, and I was looking at DiCaprio, and I'm like, is he doing this so he can just keep fucking 24-year-old dingbats, or does he really mean all that what he says? Because he's got to be 40-something now. Like, he's not a kid anymore. Like, how old is DiCaprio?
He's
45.
He's what?
He's 45.
He's 45. If you read his, it just sounds like I want to fuck 23-year-olds. So I got to come on the right side of everything.
Was him fucking 23-year-olds ever called into question or in jeopardy?
That supply.
No, but as the years wear on, you get on the wrong side of a subject. Yeah, I don't know. You may graduate to a 28-year-old, and then where would you be?
Dark
Bite
days.
your tongue.
Yes. So I was just looking at him, going, "You're old, like you're old, like again, like adults, like when your parents, when you were in the 9th grade, or your school teachers, like those are adults. That's DiCaprio's now. That dude. Do you have his Maxipana, or you can find it? I just spotted it in the airport lounge."
And I think it always feels like saying something's to raise awareness is the black hole of just doing nothing, of laziness. Like, okay, we're aware, but what needle does this move? Because your sponsors aren't getting a day of advertising to your fans, or what exactly does this mean?
Well, it's kind of like we're kind of talking about. Like if Jon Stewart gets on the phone with Bruce Springsteen and he agrees to play the concert, then everyone else realizes that guy's in and that guy's in. Now I need to be in because who wouldn't want to be with Kim Kardashian and Kardashian and Leonardo DiCaprio? So I don't know what it does. I think
that concert would raise money.
Well, that would do something. You're right, but this is a notion of, I'm not going to say no to something that these people already said yes to because these people are billionaires and household names.
It's like when everyone, celebrities included, posted a black box on their social media, whatever it was.
Right.
I don't know if it was 6 months ago. I don't know if it was 16 months ago. Whatever it was. I don't know what that accomplished. I don't know what that was for.
I think it was that day. It was a day that everyone was supposed to do something. And I just woke up and I was looking at my tweets and somebody said like, thank you, or said something really nice about they think I look like a great step parent and I'm really doing a great job. And I said, thank you. That was so nice. I really appreciate it. Then I got an angry tweet immediately saying, Gina, no one's supposed to tweet today. Read the room. So people get very angry about these things.
Do you have Leo's? You want Dawson to read Leo's? Dawson's got to move, but I think he's got that.
I'm standing with this country's leading civil rights organizations, including Color of Change, Anti-Defamation League, and the NAACP, who today have called on all users of Instagram and Facebook to protest the amplification of hate, racism, and the undermining of democracy on those platforms. I do use Instagram and Facebook, but I want it to be a force for good, not hate, violence, and disinformation. This should be an opportunity for Facebook to work with these organizations and the community at large to make it a better, safer platform for all. Please join me in not posting for 24 hours this Wednesday, September 16th. Hashtag Stop Hate for Profit. Hashtag InstaFreeze.
Now, is there
I'm getting
any
a little bit of it.
Yeah, is there any chance he constructed that himself? No.
They sent that for him to.
Went like, yeah, good. Here we go.
Okay, so I see. So I mean, whether it works or whatever, it's they're amplifying the NAACP and the Anti-Defamation League, saying we got these big names behind us, and they're not going to be using your service until you deal with us.
Got to deal with
the hate. Did I get that directly? I think so.
A lot of hate.
Negotiating ploy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least that makes more sense. You know how I hate a broken silence. People who break their silence, nobody's ever waiting around wanting to hear anything they have to say.
Oh, wait a minute. We hate a broken silence or an open letter?
I personally, I hate a broken silence. I like a good open letter. I mean, they're fun to read. I don't give a shit. You can't break a silence that no one was waiting for you to break.
I don't know. I don't like either one of those two. I don't like the open letter people, and I don't like the broken silence people.
I'm still stuck on resurfaced.
Unearthed. I have enough hate for all three of them.
Okay, good. Well, I finally have an exception to the rule because I think plenty of people have been waiting for Chris Evans to break his silence for the last, 4 days. Because he was laying real low.
He broke condoms.
And hanging low. So he finally, he didn't want to, but he did address it because Tamron Hall made him. Avengers star Chris Evans appeared on the Tamron Hall show Tuesday and sort of addressed the dick pic, which seemed to have accidentally, reared its head over the weekend on his verified Instagram account.
Reared its ugly head.
Not ugly.
Not so ugly.
She wouldn't let him out of it. She, kept teasing him, and this is the exchange.
Chris, how are you feeling? I mean, you've used this to get our eyes on something that is more important.
Yeah, that's called turning a frown upside down, Cameron. It was an interesting weekend full of lessons learned, a lot of teachable moments. Things happen. It's embarrassing. You got to roll with the punches. I will say I have some pretty fantastic fans who really came to my support.
Yes, they did.
That was really, really nice.
Well, I am one of those fans. I'm one of those fans. I'm here for the journey.
For the journey. Cock-based journey. Top vein mount journey. She's there for the journey. She's not one of those short haul dick pic gals.
She's there for the ride.
She's there for the ride. Oh, by the way, I forgot. I got Chris's coach snack pack comes in
Came in a Ziploc?
comes in a zip. He didn't even get a box.
Yeah, I know.
That's hurtful.
He doesn't
That's
get a
insulting.
box. He only got the mini water, the Cheez-Its, and the Delta
biscuit cookies
the
or-
Biscoff.
Oh, those are
The
good.
biscuit cookies.
Oh, those
They
are
are
pretty
good.
actually.
Those are
So
really
this
good.
just all this is carbs and some filtered water.
Adam, I was thinking too. Last night you were doing an event for Nissan, and you had a script on you, and
This is funny. I said it was right before the show. I did this thing for Nissan, and they did an unveiling of their Z car, and they were doing it simultaneously with the unveiling was happening in Japan, which is at about. I did my thing at 8 at night. It was like 10 a.m. in Japan or whatever, and they're doing this worldwide unveiling. So this is a very important thing, this big ZCon event. But there's also other important things going on tonight, which is, do we eat at Del Frisco's, the steak joint, or do we eat at Bourbon, the steak joint up in the thing? And I said to Max Zapata, I said, well, the steak's going to be great at either place. The sides are what's going to decide this. I need to know about appetizers and sides. So, Chris, you pick up the story.
Well, from my point of view, Adam is walking towards me frantically, and he's going over lines, and he has a script. And for those who haven't been on movie sets, an actor will typically get something called sides, which is just his lines. So Adam walks up to me, he's like, Chris, we got to go over sides. And I thought, oh, you want to go over lines with me? All right, let's do this.
Yeah, run lines.
And then eventually it becomes apparent that no, he wants me to call both restaurants and look at both their menus and find out which restaurant has the better side dishes.
That's how I relieve stress moments before I walk out on stage.
And
Other
then-
actors run sides. I talk sides.
Yeah, and then in between each time you went up on stage and came off, it was, so what's the update? What do they got? What,
Oh my God.
like you're
Ice in his
performing in
veins.
front of the world right now, and you're talking to me about mac and cheese.
Well, I think we made the right decision.
Yeah, we did.
And thankfully, I was is equally obsessed with the sides as I was with the beats and the sides of the script, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You made the right choice.
We made the
Beets
right
was a
choice.
side.
Yes.
Beets was a side option.
I got to tell everybody, I don't do the steak tartare very often. And I normally lean a little tuna tartare versus steak tartare. Good steak with the fresh chopped up red onions, small, and a quail egg. And Matt just beat it all up. And they had these toasted little squares, toasted little pie cut shapes of pita. Goddamn
cones.
delectable.
Yeah.
Goddamn delectable,
I've
right?
never had steak tartare.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
my first time.
It was killer.
Beautiful.
It was wonderful. And
That's good.
Matt DeAndre did a power move. He ordered a steak. He ordered a filet. Got a duck egg on top of it.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, he was going for broke, man. It was a big night.
Was the steak not going to be rich enough? Is that what he was worried about?
I don't know.
I don't know.
The
He's-
butter covered steak.
He saw it on the menu and he's like, "I'm going."
I like that. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and that again, people stay away from the tartare, and sometimes they go with the tuna tartare. Do yourself a favor when you go to a good steak place, get that steak tartare. It sounds
YOLO, man.
It sounds weird. Yes.
Oh,
You only live once.
Yes, to your point. Oh, never get the steak tartare in an average restaurant. If
Right.
you're going to some fucking Applebee's or something, I don't know if they have it, but I'm saying at the nice place, get the steak tartare.
Get it and live. And again, I don't order my steak rare. I get it medium usually. Like I'm not the raw egg, raw whatever. I'm not that guy. Goddamn believable, right, Max?
Yeah, I'll get it anytime. But maybe I won't try the Applebee's steak tartare, though, Brian.
Don't
All
do
right,
it.
Gina. Sorry. What else you got?
Well, trick-or-treating has been on a lot of people's minds, and that is absolutely going on in New York right now and other places. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says he won't formally ban trick-or-treating this Halloween, but he won't necessarily encourage it either. In an interview he did with News 12 in Long Island on Tuesday, he said, look, I'm not going to ban it altogether. Just be smart, use your head. Springfield, Massachusetts, however, the mayor is defending his decision to ban trick-or-treating. Well, as we know, officials here in LA banned it then freaked out and reversed it. And so they just don't recommend it. New York hasn't experienced any widespread post-reopening COVID updates. It's in the midst of a nearly 40-day streak with an infection rate below 1%. So they're doing well.
Well, I'm a little bit of a broken record, but the infection kicks in about 4 days. If it's been 2 weeks, it's not coming around. Since we had record-breaking heat in the valley and the entire beach filled over Labor Day, which is now coming on to, it's been 10, 11, 12 days since that was packed in. We should be seeing a spike in Los Angeles because those people weren't flying in from, Daytona Beach or anything. And if we're not getting a spike, then it's evidently okay to be outside in a large group. If, in fact, we're not getting a big spike, because that beach was nothing but humanity as far as my eye could see. Over a 3 or 4, it was packed on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and it was just nothing but humanity. So if we're not getting a spike, then it's okay to be outdoors, at least. I wouldn't risk what we did last night, a steakhouse with the steak tartare, but
no,
yes.
don't do it.
Especially when you're in a place with a steady offshore breeze. That's not the hot spot.
No.
But that's the thing I keep saying about trick-or-treating was if Halloween was about, if there was no such thing as trick-or-treating, if Halloween was about the whole community comes together and we all pack into one airplane hangar and have a party, and that's canceled this year, the alternate would be trick-or-treating. It'd be okay, just for safety this year, put on a costume, maybe a mask, go door to door, don't go inside, they'll hand you candy, you'll move to the next house.
You are a genius, Gina, because in an alternate universe where we didn't know what trick-or-treating was, this would be prescribed as a safe way to conduct yourself that evening. This is go outside, spread it out, go to the door one at a time or whatever. Like, this would be a perfect remedy for that. It just doesn't seem that things are going on outside, and especially, the kids and whatever. All right.
Well, so that's the thing. If you have kids and they say, well, we don't recommend it, but we can't stop you, what do you prepare for? Are people going to do it?
I don't know, but I wish they had that same mindset on speeding. Like, they're like, look, I'd like you to drive slow, but there's really nothing we can do if you want to go 180. Yeah. So, all right, let me hit Simply Safe here. Simply Safe. Most home security companies, they try to trap you with high prices and lock-in contracts, lousy customer support. There's only one no-brainer, that is Simply Safe. Everything to protect your home, an arsenal of sensors and cameras in every room, window, and door, tailored specifically for your home, professional monitoring day and night, and ready to send police, fire, or medical professionals. Set it up in under an hour. Just peel and stick. No technician required. No contract, pushy sales guys, hidden fees, fine print, any of that. Starts at just $15 a month. U.S. News and World Report named it the best overall home security of 2020. Protect yourself. Batteries last up to 10 years with Simply Safe, right, Dawson?
Head to simplysafe.com/Adam and get a free HD camera for our listeners. That's simplysafe.com/Adam to make sure they know our show sent you.
All right, Gina, why don't we bring it home and we'll do sports right after this.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad. It's time to break down the game film and look at the X's and O's, the KOs and the O-Nos from the world of sports. BetOnline presents All Balls, All Sports.
The Los Angeles Clippers lost. Their fans may as well just become incels. Their new arena already being turned into an Amazon distribution center. It's so bad Doc Rivers had his medical license pulled. Lou Williams, so depressed, he went to a strip club for the strippers. The Denver Nuggets came from behind for the third night in a row to pull away 104-89, beat the Clippers in Game 7. Jamal Murray had 40 points for the Nuggets. That kid's a superstar. Nikola Jokic, 22 boards. That's Rodman-esque there for the Nuggets. Kawhi only had 14 for the Clips. The question, For the Clippers, how bad a choke is this? Doc Rivers has now lost 3-1 leads. Once earlier with the Clippers, once with the Magic, and then the debacle last night. This seems like just an emotional gutting, like a field dressing. I'm not sure the Clippers can recover from something like this.
My son was very depressed when I spoke to him after devouring half a cow 13 floors above my room. 3-1. He's like, this is unthinkable. The Clippers are his favorite team. And this has only happened a couple of times, right? Or it's happened how many times has it happened? It's pretty
well,
rare.
For the Clippers, this is the third time.
I think it's
they've blown
something like 11 times.
In the NBA, it's 13
13 times.
Yeah.
In the history of
In the history,
this.
Doc Rivers has had 3 of those.
Wow.
Yeah.
The good news is he thought he'd lost his voice before this. His voice is so crazy hoarse.
Yeah.
It's at a pitch that like only Moose can hear. Like it's such a crazy low tonal thing that I can't even hear what he's saying. But I'm sure it is bad that it's happened to one guy 3 times in the course of 71 years or something. I don't. How long's the
3
league?
times, fool.
How long's the league been around? I mean, league's been
Too
around
long
for
the
80.
Clippers.
Wasn't the
74
merger
years.
like 1970 or something?
74 years.
ABA, NBA.
74 years. Yeah. Well, that's it. Now what? We got the Lakers. Who are the Nuggets playing?
The Lakers.
Are they
Like in
playing
the
the
Lakers, the
Lakers?
finals.
Nuggets playing the Lakers. Yeah.
That's it. There's
And
no.
the Heat
No,
and
they're in the
Boston
Western
in the other one.
Oh, Western.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Western Conference.
Yes. So
Clippers are 0-8 with a chance to win the Western Conference. 0-8 with a chance to win the Western Conference.
you know who you gotta.
That would be 0 wins.
You have
Calm
to.
down, Jeff.
But when they do, it's going to stop right about mid-throat, and they're going to choke because it's horrible. This is horrible. They were supposed to win the whole thing all year long, bandied about as the winners of the entire thing, and they're eating it.
Well, let's put ourselves in a better mood and talk about, I don't know, football or Dancing with the Stars.
You got it.
UFC or anything.
Let's see. You'll like this. The NFL announced that holding calls in week number 1 by the officials were down 78% compared to 2019. A lot of people are thinking it's the refs being out of shape or unable to call it. But in 2018, the league asked the refs to enforce some new holding calls, and holding jumped almost 100%. Then they pushed even harder in 2019, making what they call these lobster blocks, which is where you sort of get your claws around the guy so he can't get around you. They pushed, that was another 66% jump. So they pushed hard to call holding. This appears to be a course correction and not just a bunch of refs who are out of shape. So it is the lowest in 20 years, but we were talking the other day about defensive backs and how they're coming up with moves now to kind of balance the incredible talent of these offensive receivers. My hunch is they're gonna lean towards the offense in this eventually, and that's what's happening with the offensive linemen, because I think it's ratings. I think people would prefer seeing points scored than someone stopped on a 3rd and 3. So this may be the offensive lineman equivalent of that. They're kind of compensating now to help the offense, and I think you're going to see more of it.
Would you guys like to see this or not? Which is, there's holding and there's all whatever the infractions are, and then of course they're the ones that take place away from the play. And they throw the flag, it's like the guy picks off the ball, he does a pick 6, but it's all coming back because one of his teammates held or chop blocked someone who was 20 yards behind the play. You're always angry at that guy. Like, why'd you put your hands on that guy? He could have never caught the guy. Yep. Would you guys like a call? And I don't know how often you could do it, but a call where you could throw that red flag and go, it was holding or it was clipping or it was anything, but it wouldn't have affected the play. Like he could not have made it there. That's a great pick 6. That should count. Would you guys like that?
If the quarterback's rolling right and someone behind the play on the left side of the field, there's a holding call, but it's like he never looked at him, never considered not part of the play. Yes, it's the letter of the law, but it's the spirit of the law of the rule.
Right.
Here's what I would do.
Yes.
I would say, if it does not affect the outcome of the play, if it's not any factor in the play, I would say dead ball, foul, 15 yards on the point after, or 10 yards on the point after, something like that. If it's a pick six and the guy goes, I would tack it on after the change of possession. That's what I would do. So it's still a foul, but it comes after, the play is still good, but you are penalized for making an illegal block or whatever it is.
All right. And then unfortunately it comes down to this thing where you have to look at the play and try to figure out whether the guy would have shed the block and made the tackle or what have you. But in general, I feel like the refs are doing a decent enough job, and I'm enjoying the season. I'm looking forward to. Oh, it seems like. Did we have 2 Monday night games? I was traveling.
Yeah,
it was always the first week of the season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they always do 2 in the first week?
At least for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
Seemed like they're, had a Monday night game, had a Thursday, 2 Monday night games, Thursday night games, Sunday night games, Sunday night late game. Like there's more football than there isn't football now, which is, I'm not complaining. That's a good thing.
You must be happy as a clam.
I am, but on the other hand, I traveled Monday night and missed 2 football games, so I'm screwed.
That's true.
Well, this will help you. Let's keep it in the NFL. Here's a fun story. Former New York Jets wide receiver Josh Bellamy was charged for his alleged role in a $24 million fraudulent pandemic loan scheme.
Oh.
The U.S. Justice Department arrested him in Florida. He's charged with getting loans, $24 million worth of loans, him and 10 compadres. The former wide receiver, spent it on Gucci, Dior, jewelry trips, and casino trips.
I don't know this guy. White possession type receiver?
Sort of a Wes Welker clone.
Yeah.
He's an African-American receiver, former receiver. He was cut by the Jets.
I did not see that.
Who claimed they didn't know anything about the legal troubles. They just happened to cut him the day before the U.S. Justice Department arrested him.
You guys remember remember the Jets had the original Wes Welker? Wayne Crabette.
Yes.
Gina was mouthing it as it came out of your mouth.
She texted me as you started to say.
Oh, okay.
It to be on brand for you, Brian. It'd be weird coming from me.
Yes, Wayne Crabette was like the original undersized, overachieving little white possession, run the tight route, probably not stretch the field, but then would always go down. Always one of those guys who'd make one of those hustle plays after the interception, chase a guy all the way down the field or on a special team or something like that.
Cause a fumble.
Yeah, 5'10", 188. Wayne Crabette, the original sort of small white possession receiver.
I think he got into a beef with his teammate Keyshawn Johnson, who I think there was something about Keyshawn's like I'm a star and these are all flashlights or something like that.
Right.
And then it became a thing where they kind of rallied around that.
Yeah. Johnson claimed that
the Jets rallying around anything.
Claimed that comparing Corbett to him was like comparing a flashlight to a star.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Just what you're looking for in the ultimate team sport. Because Keyshawn wrote that book, Just Give Me the Damn Ball.
He was right.
Yeah. He was right. Keyshawn was a guest on Loveline on MTV during the time he was plugging Just Give Me the Damn Ball, circa 1998. I don't know when that must have been right in there somewhere.
Number 1 overall draft pick in 96. Well, he was at USC in 96, and he wrote the book a year or a year and a half later, so it would have been 97, 98, something like that.
Yeah, 97.
Right.
Not that I know a lot about Keyshawn Johnson.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He blew $62,000 at the Seminole Hard Rock Casino in Hollywood, Florida. Played college ball at Louisville, where I believe you can actually major in fraud. So I think he may have been studying
teaches the class.
Yeah, exactly. So he blows all this money. Is he not in some weird way sort of spreading around the stimulus check? Isn't he a human stimulus of sort? Shall I play devil's advocate here? I mean, he probably blew at least $500,000 of this to $1 million of this out in the public. He's trying to spread it around.
Turn the corner on this guy. Everyone else is squirreling away cans of garbanzo beans, and this guy's out spreading it around.
Wayne Corbett's clipping coupons.
That's right. This guy's putting it back into the community. You're right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's community minded, so he's probably going to jail.
It always feels like so many of these people could get away with it if they just could lay low. Like we always talk about, you hired the contract hit on your wife, you got the big insurance payday, you and your girlfriend now are moving to Reno. Could you just lay low for 9 months? Maybe we could get away with it, but it's always a new Cadillac and a Gucci bag. Like they always go on a shopping spree and then they draw attention to themselves and then the questions come pouring in.
Yeah, and they don't even try to wear a hat and a mustache on the shopping spree. It's just, hey, I'm Josh Bellamy. Show me your most expensive watch. I'm not sure that's happening.
I want to know, Max Zapata, I'll get to BetOnline here in a second, but Falcons Cowboys, I've been looking at that game for a little while. I always I have a strategy, which is when good teams and good franchises and good quarterbacks get kind of nipped in their last game, dubious, offensive push-off, kind of a call with the Cowboys, they seem to come back and make a statement their next game. And that's always, I don't have many strategies other than I would always bet the Patriots the week after they lost because they just would never seem to lose 2 games in a row. Like Belichick's teams never they're on a slide, you know what I mean? It's been 6 games, so I like the Cowboys, but I don't know how the Falcons are this year, so we'll figure that out.
Falcons have a terrible defense. That's the first or second highest over-under of the week.
Oh, really? Let me hit BetOnline
It's going to be a high-scoring
here.
game, according to BetOnline.
See if we can find the spread there. Wait's over. Football's back, as previously discussed. Falcons at Cowboys. Well, there we go, at Cowboys. Bills at Dolphins. Rams at Eagles. Vikings at Colts. Panthers at Buccaneers. That's be an interesting game. And Patriots at Seahawks. What's the spread on Patriots at Seahawks? Seahawks got to be favored, but not by too much.
I think 4.
But they look tough, man. More options to wager than any place online. Spreads, totals, props, and get in on the season bonuses and wager on wins, division, championship futures. Head to BetOnline today. Take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. Visit betonline.ag, our exclusive partner at Podcast One. And don't forget, promo code Podcast One for your sign-up bonus today. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.
Patriots favored by 4 on the road.
Really?
Seattle's a strong team, man.
Not Cam Newton. Didn't didn't Russell Wilson light it up last week?
Yeah, they're a strong team. That's an odd line.
I think I'm a little Seattle's favored, right?
Yeah, but I read it backwards. I'm sorry. That's
all right.
Bad.
Well,
thank you, Jeffrey.
We're all sane. Still, I think. Well, no, it's like I tell people all the time when smart, sane people who know a subject go, "What? No, that's weird." It usually means something's up. So even 4 points on that game, Seattle. I mean, what they put on 38 points last week. I mean, Russell Wilson looked amazing. Might they win by a touchdown? I don't know. That looked like a decent game to me. What was the Dallas game? Did we find that one?
Dallas
there?
Favored by 4.5, yeah.
It's another.
I'd take Dallas.
I'd take Dallas. I like Dallas in that game.
I would take Seattle and hope that that they win by like 18, just to see what happens then between Belichick and Cam Newton.
And also, it'll be interesting if they just go out and roll against the Patriots, because remember, Seattle's the home of the 12th man, but there is no 12th man.
There's literally 12 people in the stands.
There's 12 people in the stands. 4 of them are selling frozen malts. So I don't know. We'd go, I guess we can do it without you, 12th man. Dallas is probably going to have some people in the stands, maybe 20%. I don't know. Seattle, if it's the Seattle I know, they're not going to have anybody in there. But Dallas is, I think if it's the Dallas that I know, they're going to be trying to get some folks up in there. And might it be worth a half a point to say, well, we had some home crowd, like versus complete and utter crickets? Well, you can look that up. Jerry Jones, I at least would be lobbying for it. I don't know if he'd get it.
Yeah. I think I heard Dallas will have some fans.
Yeah, so Seattle have no fans and, no 12th man, and the Cowboys will have a couple, and that's got to be good for something. All right, let's bring it home, Jeff Cesario.
You got it. I'm Jeff Cesario. That's all she wrote for All Balls, All Sports.
All Balls, All Sports. Presented by BetOnline, your online sportsbook expert.
Dallas allowing a little over 26,000, which is 30%.
About 25%.
That's almost
25%. It's over 100.
Yeah, 105,000.
Sorry.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow, I didn't know they built the new stadium that big. Over 100,000. Yeah. With all their luxury boxes and everything.
That's what it says. I don't like the way you're looking at it.
I've toured that place, and it's pretty damn amazing. But let's not forget, all the new stadiums are all luxury box
on top of luxury boxes.
Right.
Like
so
65, right?
Yeah.
No, it's 104. Says.
I don't like the way you're looking at me.
I'm shocked.
What?
This is why I love when sane people question things.
Right.
Because it's actually standing. That's with standing room. So it's actually 80,000. Yeah. 80,000.
Yeah.
80,000.
So it's 25% of 80,000.
All right.
Seats 3,300 for football.
Yeah. Yeah. But if one of those K-pop bands comes in there, they get 115 Koreans.
Right.
All right. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to be talking to Dave Rubin coming up here on a little one-on-one. And, so stay tuned for that. We'll take a quick break. Be right back with Dave Rubin right after this.
The Adam Carolla Show presents Dave Rubin's birthday cocktail party for June 26th. Let's see who's here. Elvis Presley's manager, Colonel Tom Parker. American Mafia Don, Paul Castellano. First he gets you used to the money, then he'll make you swallow. Robert Davi. From The Clash, Mick Jones. The Warrior, Patti Smith. From the band of Berlin, here to take your breath away, Terry Nunn. Shannon Sharp. Filmmaker Paul Thomas Anderson. From Parks and Recreation, Nick Offerman. Also from Parks and Recreation, Aubrey Plaza. Gretchen Wilson is here. So is Derek Jeter, Michael Vick, Sean Hayes, and Ariana Grande. That's your party, Dave Rubin. Let's get back to the Adam Carolla Show.
My party has Todd Bridges from Different Strokes. It's the biggest. He would be at the top of the marquee, and the biggest font would be Todd Bridges. Wow, what a birthday you celebrate, Dave Rubin. Good to speak to you, my friend.
Carolla, it's good to be with you. You know, if you're having a birthday party, wasn't Todd Bridges, he was a pretty big, I think, coke, maybe crack addict. You'd have a limited amount of good times with him.
Yeah, I mean, the Candyman would definitely, would definitely have a supply for everybody, but still, that party is unbelievable and diverse. I often congratulations on being you, Dave Rubin. I oftentimes I cite you all the time, and I always use you as a sort of an example of being intellectually honest, even if it's your, I hate this term, but your truth. Like you examined, I remember you saying to me once back in the day when you worked over at the Young Turks, you just said, how could every person who disagrees with us be a racist? I mean, the odds of that are infinitesimal. And I was like, yes, he's an authentic person who's wrestling with his own thoughts and his preconceived notions, and as we all should. So I don't know, did someone instill that in you?
Carolla, before we get to that, thinking back on this birthday party list for a moment, it seemed like I had an awfully lot of white people on my list. Now, you mentioned only one person related to your birthday happened to be black. Is that you throwing a little something to the social justice people, trying to show them that you're cool and I'm more from the white supremacist cloth? Is that what was going on there? I just want to be clear on how we're setting this thing up.
Yeah, I'm always trying to hammer a few of those woke points. No, Todd Bridges is the biggest name in my group. If I had a bigger name, I'd throw it out. I mean, you got Michael Vick. Having Michael Vick's like having 3 black people, just if you're counting.
It's like having 8 pit bulls.
That's right.
That's how it would be.
So
okay, so I will answer your question, Carolla. I think like most things in life, I think you're kind of wired a certain way. And then I think the world can also shape you a certain way. So if I was doing my personality test, and we've hung out enough that I think you know this about me, I'm pretty calm. It takes a lot to get me to get really fired up, really angry at something. I have righteous indignation. I want to change the world to be better. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking for a living. There's things that I deeply care about. But my fuse isn't that short. I think that's just a hardwire thing. That's like, that's the hardware part. And then the software part, I think, is the way you grow up. And I grew up in a family that it was not only totally cool to argue about things, it was basically like you were supposed to do it. So, we'd sit around the table at any holiday. And I remember when I was at the kids' table, I always wanted to get to the adults' table. I remember being like 9 years old, and I wanted to be at the adults' table because I don't even know that I knew what they were talking about, but they were arguing. My aunt's arguing with my mom about this. My uncle and my other uncle are fighting with my dad about foreign policy and abortion and the whole thing. And I remember when I finally graduated one Thanksgiving to the adults' table and got in on it. And the thing is that they'd be arguing and yelling and all of that stuff. And then the second dessert was served, everybody forgot about it. Nobody held a grudge. We had family fights, like everybody's family, you got your aunt that's fighting with this one about some family thing, and that sticks with you. But nobody in my family ever, got up from a table and said, I'm out of here because of politics. And I think that's just what we need more of right now. And I think that's why, you and I have become allies in this thing. It's like, or you and Prager are such a great example of it. Totally different backgrounds, totally different sort of philosophical underpinnings on major questions about belief and all sorts of stuff. But it's like, you both also want to live in the same world. And I think that's what most people want. It's just that the media and now what's happened with the rabidly hysterical left is basically ruining the experiment for the rest of us. The rest of us, most people are good. Most people are decent. Most people don't need to be right all the time. Yet we've got this small, extremely loud, extremely powerful group of people that are trying to muck up the thing for everybody else.
Well, I think I was talking to Dr. Drew about Trader Joe's. Also, this is basically the boogeyman. And the boogeyman is talked about a lot, but can't physically hurt you. It's not actually under your bed. And you take these groups, these sort of insane hard left groups, and they're boycotting and they're threatening and they want everyone to comply. And then they say to Trader Joe's, we don't want senior taco shells anymore. We find that culturally, insensitive. And we want
Trader
you to,
Jose.
Yes,
That's what
we
they
want
didn't
you to
want.
change the taco shells. We want you to change the pot stickers, change all the names. And Trader Joe's goes, no, we like the names. And then the boogeyman goes, all right, we're going to move on and fuck with the next market. So all you just say is no. Like, I say horrible things. No one ever asks me to apologize because I don't apologize. So no one ever says apologize. But here's the other interesting thing about Trader Joe's. You think when you're one of these companies that just kowtows to the mob or whatever woke, whatever's going on at this particular instant, you don't think there's going to be lap 2 for all this stuff. You don't just give in and then get your severance and go off into the sunset. Oh no, it's quite the contrary. They find out you're weak and you're flexible, and they'll go after you again. So what I was saying is it's like a ping pong ball bingo hopper, just spinning that hopper around. Now, if you want to just cave in, if you're just one of the many companies that, Goodyear tires or whatever, so you don't care. You just cave. You just cave all the time. Your ball's not coming out of that hopper. It just got picked this one time, and then you caved, and they go, okay, we'll throw you back in the hopper. There's 10 other balls in there. They'll be bouncing around, but yours are going to get pulled again. What Trader Joe's does is they pull their ball out of the hopper. They go, don't fuck with us anymore, 17-year-old idiots. We're pulling our ball out of the hopper. And you'll see, they'll get left alone. There's no round 2. Nobody came. No one wanted any more pound of flesh out of them.
Well, because you're right. It's a boogeyman in that it's the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
And remember, he turned out not to be this big, scary green guy that was all-knowing and all-powerful. He turned out to be some old fraud behind a curtain. And that's all it is. I mean, Trader Jose's. So, that's what they do. I think Trader Ming's is their Asian food, and Trader Joe's is the bigger brand, and Trader Jose's was their Mexican food. And I used to get a 6-pack of Trader Jose's knockoff. It was a knockoff of Corona beer.
Right.
And it tasted even worse than Corona, but that's what I could afford. It was like $3 for a 6-pack. And I used to drink that stuff. Fortunately, I'm doing a little better these days. But it's like, I always thought it was fun. It's just like a fun thing. And no Mexican person is offended by that. But what has happened is these leftists have decided that they will be offended for everybody. But it's not even because they're offended. What they've realized is they can use it as a cudgel to just bash people in the head into submission. And all you got to do, I know it sounds hard, and some people will say, well, Dave, it's easy for you because you're okay now. You got a business. You're not going to fire yourself. Or it's easy for Carolla. He's got a successful show, and you've been around for a long time, and you got some dough. So it's easy for us. And I understand that. And that's not totally false. But what will happen is if you're 18, 19 years old and they get you to bow once, that's the hardest you're ever going to fight them, basically. Because when you're 18 and 19 years old, you don't even know what reality is. It's like the world is going to get a lot harder for you in a couple of years because you're going to have a mortgage and a car payment and a wife or a husband or a kid or a dog and all sorts of stuff that's going to come your way. But once they got you once to bow for something that was not worthy of being bowed to, you will bow forever. And we've seen so many examples of this and so many people in our world that we've worked with that you try to play with it and it will destroy you. One simple one, since we're doing CancelCon together tomorrow, it'll be nice to see in real life. Do you remember?
That'll be on tonight as you hear this, just to make sure.
Tonight, we're right. We're in the future now.
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Yes, and it'll simulcast live on YouTube, Facebook, and nosafespaces.com. I'll be there. Ben Shapiro will be there. Dave Rubin will be there, and of course Dennis Prager. Yes, go ahead.
Well, so the guy I was going to mention directly related to it is, do you remember about 2 years ago when Mark Duplass, the Hollywood director and actor, when he sent out a tweet, and in effect, his tweet said, I disagree with some of the things he says, but Ben Shapiro is not a horrible person. Do you remember this story vaguely?
There are little snapshots. So the way I work is in snapshots. I remember walking having an argument with my daughter when she was getting in the car and going to the 5th grade, and they were both getting in the car, and my daughter was saying, you hurt my feelings and you need to apologize. And I said, what I said was not intended to hurt your feelings. That's how you took it. That's your problem. I'm not apologizing. And my wife looked at me and said, you can't tell her how to feel. If her feelings are hurt, then you hurt her feelings, then you apologize. And I looked at both of them. I was like, oh, this is a little moment. This is a little jump the shark societal moment where this is how I feel. And if I feel this way, I can't be wrong. And I walk through life with little snapshots, little moments of like, oh, that's a bad sign. Like I always say, when I saw the barbed wire going up around the freeway signs in L.A., I was like, that's a bad sign. We're putting barbed wire in the freeway signs. And the Mark Duplass, I gotta walk back my half-hearted compliment about Ben Shapiro so I won't be canceled and I won't be able to get my next movie into Sundance. That was a real snapshot moment for me. But go ahead.
So I think you're totally right. And most of us, that's how life works. You have those little moments where you see the world sort of forking off in one direction or another. And you can pick that moment to then apologize to your daughter. And I guess in this case, probably apologize to your wife too, or stand for what you believe. Or you could ignore the barbed wire or anything else. But so the Duplass thing, I was sort of friendly with him at the time. We had a couple meetings about doing a Netflix show together.
Mark Duplass.
Mark Duplass, yeah.
Yes.
So we were thinking about doing some stuff together. I have nothing against him whatsoever. However, what happened was he puts out this very milquetoast tweet about just saying Ben is a decent human being, which is obviously the truth. He gets the mob to go after him. He deletes the tweet. He issues a statement basically saying Ben is a racist and a homophobe. And since then, I don't know what's happened to him. I haven't heard from him or heard anything about him because basically he did something that he knew was true, which was Ben Shapiro's a decent human. Mob goes after him. He backtracks. He apologizes. And you're right. Talking about the lottery pinballs, well, it's also another analogy would be now they got their foot on you and you can almost never get out of that quicksand because it's not that they have their foot on you and you're on steady ground. It's that they've got their foot on your head and you're in quicksand. And guess what? You're the one who put yourself in the quicksand.
Well, people need to know who are listening. I think it'd be interesting. You and I have been in this town for a while and been in this business for a while. So I think they need to know kind of the lay of the land as it pertains to pressure and then feeling the pressure of the mob and then apologizing to the mob over something you believe, which is patently true. Ben Shapiro is a very decent human being, of course. We know him, but you don't have to know him. He's a family man. He's a religious man. He's a taxpayer. He's patriotic. He's educated. There's really, believe me, if he's a bad guy, then we're in fucking utopia because he's the least of our fucking problems. But what people don't, here's what people don't really get about our business, and it should be understood. There are people, more recently especially, who have sort of carved out their own way. They're guys like Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro and Adam Carolla and Joe Rogan and guys like that. They've more recently sort of carved out their own way. There are other guys who historically, guys like Seth MacFarlane. Well, he's just a big fat ball of creativity and talent. He prints money. And if you're him or on the other side of the aisle, if you're Matt and Trey and you just print money for people and nobody else can really do what you do, they'll just look the other way. It'll be like now Seth and Matt and Trey have very different politics, but I'm putting them in the same pool, which is nobody's going to fuck with them because they print money. You're going to pull the plug on South Park, Comedy Central, because somebody sent out a drunken tweet or something. So if you're really talented, then you kind of become like LeBron James or some athlete that is going to find a place on a roster every year, no matter what, because you make the people money, right?
Yeah.
Now, there is an in-between. The Duplass brothers. They're not Joe Rogan, and they're not Matt and Trey. They're in between. Now, most of this town is in between. You think there's a whole bunch of Seth MacFarlanes? There isn't. That's why he gets I don't know if you've been to his house, but that's why he has a IMAX theater in his basement. I mean, next to the bar. Like, I'm not kidding. So my point is you're not gonna cancel LeBron James. Put politics aside. You're not going to cancel LeBron James. You're not going to cancel Matt Trey. You're not going to cancel Joe Rogan for other reasons, and you're not going to cancel Seth MacFarlane. But then there's the rest of us, all the actors that are going out on auditions, playing bit roles, trying to get their pilot or stand-up special picked up by Netflix. Those people have to play the game. The Duplass brothers have gotten 12 films into Sundance. I've gotten 0 films into Sundance. My average score on Rotten Tomatoes is twice what their score is. And if you think that I'm being hyperbolic, I'm not. You can look it up. Look up the last 5 and look up mine with the people and or the critics. But now you have to go with the people. So they better play nice because they're not getting into Sundance. Sundance doesn't need the Duplass brothers. They could just go no. And HBO doesn't need the Duplass brothers either. They can just go, no. Comedy Central needs Matt and Trey. Fox needs Seth MacFarlane. For the other 96% of people trying to work in this town, whether you're writing scripts or directing or going out on auditions or creating shows, we don't need you. So you're going to be moved by the mob. You're going to be pushed around.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of something that you said last time you were on my show, which I've quoted a whole bunch. And I always quote people. I actually give them credit where credit is due, unlike many other people in our circle don't do it. But what you said to me when we were talking about Hollywood and why conservatives are so quiet, that was sort of basically your point, that all of these people, it's not like they're highly skilled. You might be a pretty good actor. You might be, but they can find someone who's pretty much the same level of actor that you are. They can find someone who pretty much is as handsome as you are or whatever else it is. So if you're not going to play by their rules, which are the woke rules of the day, well, then in effect, you won't have a career. So either you never say anything or you say exactly what you want. And that's why we can count the open conservatives of Hollywood basically on one hand. And, Gary Sinise probably takes three spots in the top 5. So I think you're right about that. But, interestingly, on the Seth MacFarlane part, so I don't know him personally. That the IMAX theater sounds pretty freaking awesome.
It's good.
But while I agree he's cancel proof to a certain point, he's a guy, and I would love to talk to him about this. So this is not me throwing the guy under the bus, but this is a guy who Family Guy, to its full credit, makes fun of everybody, right? They make fun of gays, they make fun of blacks, they make fun of Jews and Irish and handicapped people and people with AIDS and everything that you can possibly think of. But do you remember about a year ago, I don't know if it ended up happening, but one of the EPs of Family Guy basically said, we're not going to make gay jokes anymore. I don't know if this was actually put to test. And in effect, what they were saying was, okay, we're going to sort of buy into wokeness. And gay people, you should be treated a little differently than everyone else. Now, we could go back for 20 years of Family Guy and the literally 3,000 gay jokes around Stewie, a baby. I mean, right. Stewie's a baby. There's a great scene in Family Guy where they throw him back into Jesus's time. Jesus is taking a shower with porn music on, and Stewie's standing there getting aroused. I mean, that's pretty intense stuff if you get offended by these type of things. So I don't know that they actually put that into practice in the last year of Family Guy. I haven't watched it in a while. But even the guys that are protected in a certain way, there is some other pressures where it would be really, really hard for a guy like you or a guy like me. We don't work for a studio. He still works for a studio. And that's not to say that we're impervious too, right? Because you have sponsors, I have sponsors. You have also personal, your wife could get really pissed at you about something, or my mom could be really pissed at me, and we could shave off a little bit of what we really think. So I'm not sitting here saying we're perfect people. But I think that you're right, that as the Hollywood system crumbles, it is shining a light on how many of those people were basically totally useless tools, and that there are other voices out there that are more interesting and more authentic, albeit not perfect.
Well, as a former carpenter, if you're a good carpenter, you're never out of work. We just need you. That's how it works. I don't want to go back to carpentry, but I base a lot of my stuff on a skill and something tangible. I picked up a guy hitchhiking a million years ago when I was, 25, just driving a truck and working as a carpenter. This guy looked a little down on his luck and thought I'd just give him a ride, and he said he found out I was a carpenter. And then I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I'm a carpenter." And I said, "What do you do?" And he's like, "I do rough, I do finish, I do drywall, I do foundation, I do concrete finishing." And I said, "Are you any good?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm great at all of them." And then he said, "I've been out of work for 6 months." And I thought, "You're no good. You're no good at any of this. No way. When you're good finish carpenter, you're never out of work. Your dance card is full. Your calendar's full." And so what I don't think people understand, and this is kind of interesting, Hollywood is this way and sort of corporate America is that way, which is we like the Duplass brothers, but we don't need the Duplass brothers. Yeah. And we like this mid-level executive guy over here, but we don't need him. We can just get some other mid-level, call headhunter and get another whatever. And it turns out that a lot of people are kind of living in the middle. And when you're living in the middle, when the difference between you getting the part and that other person getting the part, or you getting your sitcom picked up by Netflix versus not, if it comes down to tenths of a second, then why are you screwing around praising Ben Shapiro? It could be just enough to get you on the wrong side of the paywall.
Yeah, well, look, that's why for all the chaos that we live in right now, watching a lot of this stuff crumble, I'm not a burn it down guy, and we're living in a time where it's a lot of, literally in the town that we live in, it's a lot of burning it down. I would prefer that we look at the institutions we have and we figure out how to fix them. Now, they may be too far gone, right? Like the universities, I would argue the universities at this point are too far gone. I would argue that the New York Times is too far gone. Our traditional media, things like CNN, maybe they do deserve to burn. But it's very easy to burn everything down. It's a lot harder to build it up, right? I mean, a contractor, you can wreck a house a lot quicker than you can build a house, obviously. Speaking of which, I just moved last month. I decided to stay in this crazy town. I know Shapiro's getting out.
Yeah.
The Daily Wire guys are getting out. But I decided to stay because I thought, if someone like me can't live in California anymore, if someone like me can't live in LA, then really the experiment, as our friend Dennis Prager calls it, the American experiment's over. That if any decent person just is like, you know what, California is not a place that I can tolerate anymore, I got to go to Texas or I got to go to Florida, well, then the federalist system that we came up with is over. So I'm here. I'm gonna fight, and I'm gonna try to convince you or Larry Elder or Prager to run for mayor. So let's do this, Carolla. What are you doing? What are you doing?
You moved out of the place in Sherman Oaks area.
I'm out of Sherman Oaks. I'm not going to say what part of town I'm in now, but I did move. And I can tell you, after moving, there's nothing better than a good contractor. There is nothing better than a good contractor who knows what they're doing, who's not bullshitting you, who is not, just making you feel stupid because they're quoting you prices that are crazy and telling you need things that you don't need. You get a good contractor, you stick with that guy for the rest of your life.
Well, I'll get his number off the air. So I'm interested in how you were shaped. So I come from a very liberal background. And so I felt very liberal, but I also had one eye open for what wasn't working. So I was like, I get it. We're liberal and we're down with the indigenous people and we're all horrible slave owners. And I get all that. But on the other hand, there's some things you guys are doing that aren't working. And I like the liberal heart. I like the values, but I'm not so sure about the financial end of it. And I want to just kind of pick and choose. I'd like to have liberal feelings about growing your own pot plant, or libertarian kind of feelings about whether you can, if you can marry your partner, marry a man, or things of that nature. But then there are other things I'm more conservative about because I've seen they're not really working for you people, and I'm not interested in taking shit that works and breaking it down, that's a waste of my time. I just want to pick and choose the stuff that's not really working and see if I can work it out. For instance, calling everyone a racist, that doesn't work for me. That seems insane and statistically impossible. And a wild coincidence. Everyone who disagrees with you is a racist? That's a wild coincidence.
Every single person who disagrees with me, Adam, is a Nazi. It's incredible.
Right.
I can't find anyone who disagrees with me who isn't a Nazi. That's pretty powerful stuff. But that goes to what you said about me at the beginning, because I remember when I was on the Young Turks that's what it was. The argument of everything always came down to everybody else is a racist or a homophobe or a bigot or a Nazi. And when I started thinking about it, it wasn't that I had the answers yet, but just that thing, it kind of just sat there in front of me. And I was like, the math doesn't work on this. How could it be possible? It's not as if I'm looking around these people and I'm going, these are all the most ingenious, brilliant, evolved people ever. They're just people, good or bad or indifferent. And I'm just a person, good or bad or indifferent. How could it be possible that everyone we disagree with is such a goddamn fucking idiot and an evil person more than anything else? How could everyone else be so evil and us be so good? So once that equation, that math equation, 2 + 2, it equals 4. And if it doesn't, something's wrong. And I know they would prefer us not to believe that anymore because math is part of the patriarchy, you're saying. But once I realized that sort of, I would say, was the high level thing that got me questioning all the other things. And then we've talked about it a million times when Larry Elder smacked me around about systemic racism, and we aired the clip instead of not airing it. And I was on Aura TV at the time, and the producers, they wanted to cut it. And I was like, if you cut it, then I don't even know what I'm doing for a career, because that was the real moment. So I'm going to have to take the hit. And I'm immensely glad that I made the right decision on that one. And, it was my best moment probably and worst moment at the exact same time, which is a pretty rare thing, I suppose. But then I just started asking more and more questions. And the crazy part for me is that, now Prager and Shapiro and Glenn Beck and a bunch of guys that 5 years ago I thought were all the bad guys, I know we're the good guys. And I don't mean it to frame it in good guy versus bad guy as much as I have a couple of disagreements with them. I do. We know that's the case. Ben has a personal religious view on gay marriage. I am married to a dude. We've been together for 10 years, which for gay people in straight years, that's like 40 years together. We've been doing this thing and we're happy and we're good and we're working on kids. I know Ben doesn't, in his worldview, his religious worldview, he doesn't feel that that's right, but he's not trying to legislate my life. And I would much rather live with someone in a world with someone like Ben than someone that wants to use my sexuality so that I have to, bow to them all the time. And I know a lot of gays like being on their knees, but that just doesn't work for me anymore.
Well, let's talk about that. I'll tease it because I got a spot and a break, but this notion of we need to use the gays, we need to use the blacks, we need to use the workers, we need to get them on our side. And my feeling is well, good, then set up a bunch of programs that benefit them. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to agitate them and explain to them that the other side is gunning for them. That is I say over and over again, it's almost 2021. Are we still going to keep playing this card as if the Klan is 66% of the population, or the White Aryan Brotherhood, or as if these groups really exist in any tangible numbers? Are you even, I say to people all the time, all right, sorry, but you can look at Nielsen ratings and demographics and everything else. I've been on a hit TV show. I've been on multiple hit TV shows. When you're on a hit TV show, you walk to an airport, people ask you for your autograph, they turn around. Those all the ratings you need is people stop you everywhere and they want to say something. Reality. That's how you know you're on a hit TV show. I say to people all the time, have you ever met a racist? Do you know racists? Do you know anyone in your family? Did you go to school with people who are actively racist? If the answer is no, then there just can't be as many as CNN is talking about.
Well, that's why when they run around saying that Trump is a racist, like you have to really think, well, what does that really mean? Now Donald Trump, if you remember back to January before the pandemic, it feels like 1,000 years ago, Donald Trump was given the State of the Union address, and he talked about lowest all-time Black unemployment. Everyone cheered except the Congressional Black Caucus and the progressives, who sat there arms folded looking like he just said, we're going to kill all of you and everyone you know. And it's like, well, so who is for Black people? I mean, if Donald Trump is a racist, then you would clearly be able to point to something that would show that he wants laws to be put in place as the president of the United States that are going to harm people based on the color of their skin. Or he's going to try to pass a law that is going to harm gay people because of their sexuality. Not only has he not done those things, but he was the first-time president to ever be pro-gay marriage. Barack Obama was not. So the progressives of 2030 are going to come down for Obama. And real quick, I'll tell you, I actually met Trump in December. It was about a week into impeachment, and everybody on MSNBC was saying the walls are closing in, and he's freaking out, and he's losing his mind, his inner circle. Well, I went out to dinner that night at Mar-a-Lago with Junior, and Kimberly Guilfoyle is his girlfriend from Fox, and she's a lawyer, and David and I, my husband David and I, the four of us at dinner. We're at Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago has two rooms basically. And it's very gaudy. It's very over the top. It's very Trump. It feels like Trump as a restaurant, right? Mm-hmm. The main room has, I don't know, maybe 50 people sitting there. And then there's a side room where there were maybe 20, 25 people. We were in the side room. We're sitting right there. And at the table next to us is Trump and Melania and Rudy Giuliani and two other people. We had a great dinner with Junior. I like him a lot. And at the end of the dinner, Junior says to me, hey, do you want to say hi to my dad? So obviously I say yes. We walk up. Now, remember, this is literally a week into impeachment. The walls are closing in. He's freaking out. Trump's sitting there. He has no tie on, which is pretty weird to see him without a tie. So he looks kind of relaxed because he looks a little like a mafioso, kind of the collar's really open. His hair, it was the end of the day. It hadn't been sprayed, so his hair was like a little crazier. But he's laughing up a storm with Giuliani. And Junior brings us over. And Junior says, Dad, I want you to meet Dave Rubin. He's got a great podcast, blah, blah, blah. And Trump looks at me. He's sitting, I'm standing. He looks up at me and he goes, I recognize you. And I was like, oh, well, I'm on Tucker a lot on Fox. He goes, oh, that must be it. And then he turns to David, my husband. He turns to David. He goes, well, who are you? And David goes, well, I'm his husband. And he goes, husband? He slaps his hands on the table. He stands up. He goes, I want to stand up and shake your hands. Thank you guys for coming out here. And then he goes, I want you to know I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit, and I don't think anyone else gives a shit, and I don't think anyone else has given a shit for 20 years. And then he points across the table. He goes, Melania, can you believe it? These two guys are gay. Their only problem is they're too handsome. So then David walks around to Melania. They start talking. And I said, well, it's an honor to meet you, Mr. President. And I'm telling you, the way he looked at me, I could have said, yo, Don, what's up? The idea that I said it's an honor, Mr. President, like that meant nothing to him. Absolutely nothing. Anyway, then Junior got pulled away to another conversation, and the president and I had like a good 8 or 10 minutes. And it was right when Bloomberg was about to get in, and we chatted about that for a little bit. And I'll just tell you one other thing about it. I told Trump my theory on Bloomberg, which was that I thought Bloomberg was a decoy the entire time. I thought they were always going to go coalesce around Biden, but they needed a little of the fire to be taken away because they realized how bad Biden was faltering. So they needed, remember those debates where it was all about Bloomberg? And really that was just a decoy to just push Biden's old bones to the finish line. So that's what I said to Trump. And Trump puts his hand across the table onto Melania's hand. And he goes, honey, what do you think about this? And then he had me repeat what I said. And I thought, that was an incredible moment. The way the media frames it, and every time you see a picture of them, it seems like they hate each other or that she hates him or something like that. But I said something that he thought was interesting, and his gut reaction before even responding to me was to put his hand on her hand and say, honey, what do you think about that? And then we all talked about it. And I thought that is so different than what you see through the media, that it was just another example, basically, of everything that we're always talking about. How the media is one thing, reality is something very different.
Well, I want to talk after the break, after the spot, about this sort of phenomenon of getting into everyone's heart. You know, we were talking about like African-American community, gay community, Hispanic community, women, and you go, I don't care if your policies don't help us. I need to know you like us. You know what I mean? Which is like, right. I've never felt that way in my life, but I don't know why it's so pervasive now. Like you said, like, look, bring down black unemployment and the black community will thrive. Don't do anything about black unemployment, but love us and it won't make a damn difference, or respect us or whatever. It's all lip service anyway. I just want to know why, when we turn, and why it's so important. All right, let me hit LifeLock here. Since the start of the pandemic, there's been a 300% increase in cybercrime. Hackers are getting more sophisticated, taking advantage of teleconference accounts. It's important to understand how cybercrime and identity theft are affecting our lives. Every day we put our information at risk on the internet. Cyber criminals keep finding new ways to steal identities. You could miss certain threats if you're just monitoring your credit. LifeLock detects a wide range of identity threats, like your social security number for sale on the dark web. It's almost 2021, as I now say. You need some insurance. You need to protect your identity. If they detect your information, they'll send you an alert. But you probably are going to be safe if you get LifeLock, right, Dawson?
No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but you can find out if your information is on the dark web. Get your free dark web scan at LifeLock.com/scan. Pick the plan that's right for you and save up to 25% off your first year with promo code Adam. It's a free scan at LifeLock.com/scan and 25% off with promo code Adam.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Right back with Dave Rubin right after this.
In the spirit of Murrow, Jennings, Cronkite, here's another great moment in local news.
Meet the Dew-Garita. It's a margarita made with Mountain Dew. The cocktail is part of Red Lobster's new partnership with PepsiCo. The companies aren't divulging the exact recipe, but it's probably safe to assume the Dew-Garita also contains tequila.
That's a great moment in local news. Now, back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Dave Rubin with us for the second half. Don't Burn This Book. The name of his very well received, very good book. Think for yourself in an age of unreason. And also our event, which is coming on tonight as you hear this. You can simulcast it live on YouTube, Facebook, and nosafespaces.com, and that'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. It'd be Dave and Dennis Prager and Ben Shapiro as well. So this feelings-based society that we're just kind of slipping into, like it's a coma or something. And I'm the one who keeps saying, I don't care about anyone's feelings. I want the roads paved. I want crime down. I want to do something about this homeless problems. And everyone looks at me and goes like, where's your empathy, man? And I go, I don't give a shit, man. I want to get the taxes down and get the schools reopened and get the test scores up. Like, when did this happen? It greatly affects the black community, for instance, because it's like, it's more important that the politician respect them than actually give them school choice, which would actually help the community. And I'm like, yes, go ahead.
Well, Adam, first off, paved roads sounds very empathetic to me. You know, true. My old place. I lived south of the boulevard. It was like driving through downtown Baghdad over there. I mean, it's just a nightmare of potholes and the rest of it. So paved roads, that's as empathetic as it gets, at least in Los Angeles. So when did it happen? You know, there's a lot of theories on this. Jordan Peterson has talked about this a lot. A whole bunch of scholars have talked about this a lot. So you can start tracing it back probably to 70s academia. But what I think is interesting that really gets to the heart of it is sort of, why are there basically two prevailing positions? One is that you're either fact-based, in which case the media will frame you as very cold and very mean, and you care about all the wrong things, or your whole worldview is based on what you feel. So how did we really get to that? And I think there's a couple reasons. So a sort of simple version, like a political version would be this. If you're somebody that's on the right, if you're a conservative or a libertarian or an old school liberal or something like that, you believe in really one thing more than anything else, which is individual rights. And that's what I know you believe, and it's certainly what I believe, and that what most people believe. There's individual rights. It doesn't matter if you're white or black. It doesn't matter if you're gay or straight. You got a limp, you're a lesbian, you got a poked out eye. It doesn't matter. You got the same laws applicable to you as everyone else in that society. The US has done that better than any country in the history of the world. And when we've had periods of time where we didn't do it well, slavery, obviously, women not being able to vote, et cetera, we've rectified those things. So it doesn't mean that our history is perfect, but it means that it always expanded rights to more people. And if you were to tell me right now that there was a group of people based on an immutable characteristic that doesn't have equal rights, well, then I would fight for their rights. So equal rights is sort of broadly the thing on the right that brings people together. I would also say that when you talk about like, I want roads that are okay, I want schools that are good, it's because I think, and this is very similar to how I feel, I think you probably consider yourself a realist more than anything else, in that you view the world not as how you want it to be, but how it is. Now, that's very different than what the people on the left do. They don't view the world as it is. They only view it as they want it to be. And if you only view the world as you want it to be, you can basically destroy anything in the process to getting to that utopia. Now, of course, utopia doesn't exist. What you most likely will end up with is dystopia. But okay, so if you're on the right and you believe in individual rights, and that thus you believe in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the things that protect those rights, that's a unifying principle, which is why you and Prager, despite massive philosophical religious differences, I mean, basically you guys have a difference truly on what the nature of reality is at some level, right? Like this was the big Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson debate. You and Prager have a fundamental difference there, but you want to live in the same world. Right. So that's what people on the right believe because of individual rights. On the left, and I think this really does sum it up well, it is virtually impossible to figure out what the unifying principle of the left is other than government will fix it. So if you watch those Democratic debates, there was no talk of the individual or the Bill of Rights or the Constitution. Actually, the only time I remember the Constitution being mentioned in the Democratic debates was when they asked Joe Biden a question about doing a executive action on guns. And he said, well, it would have to be constitutional. And Kamala Harris laughed in his face and said, Joe, can't we just say, yes, we can? And It's like, Joe, poor Joe. I mean, he's got other problems now, but it's like, he's saying the word Constitution to a group of people who don't care about it. So the problem is you've got on the right people that believe in individual rights. That is equality. That is true equality. On the left, you have people that believe that the government is supposed to solve everything. So when Bernie comes out there, right, and Bernie goes, all right, $15 minimum wage. Now, Bernie's never run a business. I'm more of a successful businessman than Bernie is. You're more of a successful businessman.
My gardener is a more successful businessman, literally, than Bernie is.
I could use a good gardener, by the way, so I'll have to get his number. But yes, that is true. Your gardener, I have no doubt, has probably created more jobs, because I'm guessing it's not just him or he works for somebody or something else and busts his butt. But the point is, Bernie, who has never created a job, right? He's created campaigns that other people pay for, but Bernie's never created a job. He just picks the number $15. There's no economic meaning to that number. It just feels good to him. And it doesn't make sense because, as I'm sure you have, Adam, I have a zillion people always offering to work for me, and they always offer to work for free or intern for free. And I pay my interns because I do believe that you should pay people for work. But the idea that the government should come in and artificially tell me how much I should pay someone is crazy. But what happens is Bernie says $15 minimum wage. The media then frames that as, oh, Bernie wants to help poor people. They don't want to have the complex conversation about what that does to businesses and forcing you to pay for things that aren't worth that and everything else and how it'll raise prices. So now they've framed Bernie as a good guy because he made up a number. But then it gets worse. And I think this gets to the heart of what you're asking. Then Rashida Tlaib comes along, and she's, one of the members of the squad there. She's a far left progressive. And she says $20 minimum wage. And then they go, well, Bernie said 15, but she said 20. And because they believe government is good, she is now more moral than they are. And what will happen next is someone will say 30, someone will say 50, and then there will be no businesses. And then there will be no one making any money. So I think the reason that your question basically was, why is it that some of us believe in facts? Why is it that some of us believe in feelings? How did the feelings thing basically eat the facts thing? And I think that is the answer. Individual rights is really the only thing that should matter, the only major thing that should matter in a free society. They have chosen to say that that is actually wrong, and that what you feel about everything is right, and thus economics don't matter. Nothing matters. Philosophy doesn't matter. History doesn't matter, right? What is the 1619 Project by the New York Times? It's an erasure of history. And this is deeply dangerous stuff.
I agree, and I always try to approach things from a sort of psychodynamic sort of way. And I'm curious what you think about this thought, because it's something I've been noodling on for a while. So I come up with something in my head, and I keep thinking about it, and then I keep thinking about how it's affecting things. And I think this will dovetail nicely into the feelings versus numbers. I was talking to Dr. Drew about this the other day on one of my many walks and talks with Dr. Drew, which is money is invisible and it almost doesn't exist. So when Dr. Drew was a kid, his dad would say, you think we got a money tree in the backyard? You think money grows on trees? You think there's a dollar bill growing on that tree? So it was very tangible. It's like you want a pair of sporty tennis shoes, they're $40, and Dr. Drew's dad is saying, we don't have a tree that grows money. So it was very, I got paid by the hour my entire life until I got, 31. I got into show business. I'd get $9 an hour, $7 an hour, and everything I did was based on hour. When I was 24, I was making $9 an hour. I'd order an Amstel Light at a bar. I'd like, that's 1 hour's worth of work after taxes.
Yeah.
It's literally, I'd get $9 an hour. They take taxes out. That Amstel Light is $6.50 plus tip, like literally. And I was very careful. Now, my daughter has a phone, and that phone has an app on it, and it says Uber Eats or whatever, and she just pushes a button. Now, here's where the disconnect comes. When I say to my daughter, as parents used to say to their kids historically, you go, do this. And they go, why should I do it? And you go, because I said so, because I'm your dad. Now, and that was good enough because we understood that there was a direct connection between that person who said, because I say so, and a roof over your head and lights and power and hot water coming out of the spigot. And by the way, whatever food you ate that day didn't come from a magical device. It came from your dad's pocket. Your dad got paid $12 an hour. He works in a coal mine, came home dirty, and he had to wait for Friday for payday. So there was a very straight connection between money and relationships, things you want, stuff like that. Well, now money has become sort of digital and kind of invisible. And now that it's become invisible, people have sort of gotten into this world, and I see it with my own kids, and anybody living in modern times is going to feel this, which is my kids don't really connect me with the money. Mm-hmm. The money's on their phone. It's got nothing to do with me going on tour, going out of town, coming in and doing podcasts or doing whatever it is, selling books, whatever it is I'm doing. It's kind of invisible. And now that the money's sort of free and invisible, then what do you owe this guy for? He's just taking up more space in her house. And it's a kind of AOC thing as well. She grew up in a digital, invisible kind of money world because the stuff she says is she's going, health care for everybody, and we should have free schooling, and college should be free. Like everything she said is based on money being invisible, not really being tangible. Nobody in the 60s, the 50s, even the 70s, where people literally opened their wallet and went, I only have $18. Well, you owe $20. I got to go find $2 more somewhere. Like, you couldn't have made these proclamations in those times before Uber Eats and Starbucks delivers and every app on a phone and direct deposit and all that stuff where you really physically don't come in. We were growing up in a world where, people had a Sparklets bottle filled with change. And, at the end of the year, if it got full up, you could go to the arcade, like that. This kind of shit wouldn't fly. College should be free, or healthcare should be free, or everyone should have world-class, fill in the blank, unless money got invisible. As money gets more and more invisible, you can also start blaming. Like, when is that fat cat going to start paying his fair dues? Like, his fair share. That guy pays for everything.
Right.
It's just invisible to you. You don't care.
Adam, I have a lot of memories, as I'm sure you do too, of the struggling years of stand-up when I had a freaking giant pretzel jar in my kitchen and I was just throwing change in there. And then I would get to that moment when I basically had no money and I was late on the rent and the whole thing. And I would go down to, I think it was Bank of America, and they had a free change machine. And if you happen to be the guy that got the thing, you might get an extra $5, something like that. And talk about real, talk about tangible and granular.
Your hand smelled like the money when you were done. That's how tangible it was.
Yeah,
Weird copper smell.
That smell of copper, and just like every other person in New York City who touched all of that change. Yeah. Well, I think this is worth noodling on, because you're talking about the disconnect from reality to sort of just being able to do what you want whenever you want. You mentioned AOC there. Let's not forget, this is a woman who said you don't have to be factually correct. You have to be morally right.
Right.
That is seriously dangerous for a politician to say that, because, well, first off, you do have to be factually correct. Facts are what lighten the world so that we can organize in a way that's sensible. But to say morally correct comes above that, well, I am fairly certain that I don't have the same moral compass as AOC, thank God. I'm pretty sure your moral compass is different than AOC. She thinks it's moral to take from people because she feels it is right. So you can basically excuse pretty much any behavior at that point.
By the way,
the disconnecting and the digital thing, it's a really cool idea.
I just want to build on this. Sharia law is put in place by a bunch of people who really believe strongly in Sharia law. Shall we just respect it? You know what I mean? Like, everyone has beliefs. It doesn't mean they're all correct.
Chopping off your hand because you stole something to feed your starving family. It may not be factually correct, but It's morally right.
Right. Everyone has their own constructs their own moral universe, but facts don't lie. That's an engineering thing, and that's why we have to all agree on it.
But by the way, that's why they're trying to take down facts. I mean, that's why they're trying to take down all of our universities and the liberals, and it pains me to say this, but the liberals have no defense for this thing. This thing that is destroying everything right now, whether we're talking about statues being torn down or buildings being torn down or anything else. Look, we're both in LA. When the riots really started, I'm sure it was similar where you live to where I live, where suddenly there were blocks where everything was boarded up and it said Black Lives Matter on the outside. And if you're not really thinking about it, you could walk down that street and be like, boy, there's an awful lot of support for Black Lives Matter here because all the buildings say Black Lives Matter. But if you think about it for 1 second past that, you go, oh, wait a minute. It's not that they support Black Lives Matter. It's that this is a protection racket. That the only way their store is not going to be destroyed, although in many cases their stores were destroyed anyway, is if they acquiesce to their demands and say Black Lives Matter. So they're basically acting as a mafia group, but it's worse than a mafia group. At least the mafia has good food and some funny people, and they care about family and hard work. These guys are mafia with none of the good stuff.
The school you're bringing up, the college campuses, as I was sort of really drilling down on the invisible money, the folks that are living in a kind of invisible money world is college professors. Once you make tenure, then you're just going to get paid what you get paid in perpetuity. You're not going to get fired. You're not going to have to, make ends meet or work the third shift or take a summer job. And you're kind of living in a world as close as we can get to sort of socialism and then kind of invisible money. You're not going to be rich. You'll never be poor. You'll be, sort of upper middle. And you are then instructing all our kids coming from a position of being a recipient of sort of invisible money versus having a small business owner instruct our kids. And you could only imagine how different some of those lessons would be. Or Mike Rowe or anybody or you or me. You can imagine what we'd be espousing versus what someone who is living in that world. So in a way, the kids, many of the kids are there with the invisible money. You know, they have a credit card. Their parents pay the tab at the end of the month. I'm not saying some kids, you know, don't work and don't whatever, but many of them at the elite schools are just there. They're just there. Everything's taken care of, invisible money, and then they're being taught by people that are living under the umbrella of invisible money. So how is reality going to seep into this group?
Well, I think the proof's in the pudding. What I like about this theory is it fits with the rest of the stuff that we talk about. Because why are the universities crumbling first? The whole point of the No Safe Spaces movie, actually, which is why we're doing CancelCon tonight, the whole purpose of it was to say something so rotten is happening here. And what was the criticism that we all got 3 years ago when we were all talking about this? I'm sure you got the same thing. I got it all the time. Rubin, you're just it's just happening on college campuses. The second they hit the real world, they'll realize what's going on and it won't be there. And I kept saying, this thing is so rotten, it's so evil, it's so twisted, it's so all-encompassing that simply is not the truth. Well, it's fairly obvious that we were proven right. But what better place for horrible ideas to take root other than universities, where we know that something like 90% of college professors are on the left, places where they get tenure so then they don't really have to work, where they can talk about theories all day instead of reality. And what I would say is, if you're a parent and you're watching this and you got a young kid that you're thinking of maybe sending to college or that you've already started saving money for college, you can learn an awful lot on YouTube right now. And that's not to say that the 4-year experience and being on your own and living with a group of people before you live with your spouse or all that stuff's good, or experimenting with drugs or whatever it is. I'm not saying that stuff, none of that's good, because I think there's value in that too. But if you're going to walk out of that thing $150,000 into debt, well, that's no good. I went to SUNY Binghamton, which is a state university in New York school. It's one of the better state schools that we've got in New York. And I wanted to go to Syracuse because I wanted to be a broadcaster. And that's where Bob Costas went and Marv Albert and all the big broadcasters went there. And I thought I'd be like a Sports Center anchor or something. And my dad said to me, we looked at the numbers. He showed me at that time, Syracuse was about 25 grand a year. Now it's literally something like 60 grand a year. And Binghamton, if you were an in-state student, I think it was about 8,000. And then he was going to throw in another 2,000 for living expenses. And my dad said, look, I'll pay for this one and you're good to go. Enjoy yourself, but I'm not paying for that one. And he said, the choice is yours. And I went to Binghamton. And I think that's sort of, we're watching the entire system collapse. Overpriced private schools, now state schools that are crumbling under the weight of their own, of the ideas that they promulgated in the first place.
You know, it's funny as you mentioned Syracuse. So I grew up out here in the San Fernando Valley. I never went to college, and I was so uneducated geographically. I didn't know where Syracuse was. I didn't know, like when I'd watch game shows and they'd go from, Bob Barker's clothes provided by Botany 500 from New York City or something. I'd go, why are they saying New York? Like, why are they saying New York 2 times? I don't know what that is. I
was just a stutter.
I had no idea the difference between, Washington, D.C. and Seattle, Washington. I literally didn't. And then later on in my career, when Drew and I had a popular show on MTV, we started playing all these college campuses. And, Drew would go, we're going to Syracuse this week. And I'd go, is that in San Diego? Is that in Palm Springs? Like, I don't know where Syracuse is. And I knew the football teams. I didn't know where they were. I knew Notre Dame, but I didn't know where Notre Dame was. And so we found ourselves at Syracuse, and we got up on stage, 2,000-3,000 seat auditorium. We'd sell out these things all the time. And we just started getting on our spiel, and I think somebody asked a question like, well, what about getting a degree in communications? And we didn't know what the hell Syracuse specialized in. And Drew did 5 minutes on it's a waste of time. Go to work at a radio station. It's free. You go there, you intern, it's free. No one we worked with at K-Rock ever had a degree. No one cared about your degree. It's a waste of money. And I could feel the air coming out of the room as Drew was just going on, just wax about what a waste of time a communications degree was, because he would have said that in Arizona State, but that wasn't what they were known for, you know?
Yeah, that is their thing at Syracuse.
Well, we found out when he was done giving it's as worthless as the paper it's written on kind of thing. When we were done, it was pretty clear as we were looking around to these like stunned faces of people that were in their third year over there, $80 grand into their communications degree, that
right,
was
with
worthless.
basically the worst weather in the country up there too. It's like, Jesus, you thought it was in San Diego. At least you give them a useless degree in San Diego. You're having fun. You look good.
The only thing I remember about that is that speech, and Drew and I, with a couple hours to kill before the gig, took a walk and realized that there's a giant cemetery that's right next to the campus, and we just walked all the way through this campus, almost a campus cemetery. So, ideas, and I know, like there's a very interesting clip of President Obama. It's from a debate, Max Zapata. We won't find it, but you can look it up. But he's doing a debate, and the moderator's asking him about raising corporate taxes. And so the moderator, he goes, well, you want to raise corporate taxes, right? And he goes, probably capital gains. He goes, you want to raise capital gains? And he goes, yeah, I do. And then the moderator goes, every time they raise capital gains, they get less money because people don't sell things, or they get smart, or they do whatever they do. Yep. So actually raising of the capital gains tax actually gets you less money. So with that in mind, why would you want to do it? And he was like, because I want to do what's fair. And it's like, but don't you want the moderator kept with it. And he was like, but don't you want more money? And he's like, I don't know. It doesn't always work that way. And the moderator's like, no, it always works that way. Whenever they raise it, you get less because people give less. And he was like, I'll just raise it a bit. And I thought, what do we, he would look at raising capital gains tax for purpose of fairness. For the purpose of fairness. Like, okay.
Purpose of fairness.
But so even if you make less, yes, I'd like to be fair. That's
Adam.
Yes.
He wanted to be morally right,
That's
not
right.
Factually correct.
That is right. A good note to go out on CancelCon. That'll be simulcasting live tonight on YouTube, Facebook, NoSafeSpaces.com. And, of course, I'll be there with Dave and Ben and Dennis, and we'll be talking about everything. The YouTube channel, The Rubin Report, I've been on it. It's great. God bless you. I smile every time I think about you, Dave Rubin. And obviously the book, Don't Burn This Book, as well. I will.
Hey, Carolla,
yes.
I need to get you out here. I think I got an air conditioning return that's a little too small. I feel like you're the guy that could come over here and fix this thing. Can you get out here this afternoon?
I'm an HVAC man, and I can help you. And no, I will come by and look at whatever you got, because that's my
I got
passion.
a door that's sticking. I can keep you busy for a couple hours.
That I'll fix. $20 minimum wage, so says the squad. Thanks, Dave. I'll see you
Thanks,
soon.
Adam.